Okay. But, so, of course, the highlight of the season has been Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. So Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein 2025 came out last week. It's been the thing that I have been waiting for many, many months now. First of all, of course, because it is a Guillermo movie. The visuals, just unfucking believable. Unbelievable. It is a gorgeous, a scrumptious, what does he say? Guillermo doesn't make eye candy, he makes eye protein. And it's true. That's such a true statement, King. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous film. The colors of the costumes, the sets, they pop so much. The setting, also a banger. I don't know. When did Mary Shelley set the actual book? Because I knew... When did she write it, even? Because that is kind of a big part of talking about this movie, especially in regards to, like, all of the other adaptations that have happened. Because watched the 1931... the original Universal Monster adaptation of Frankenstein, because that is, whoa, my God, for so much iconography that comes from that movie, I swear to God, and this will be like a big conversation about this movie, is like how accurate it is to Mary Shelley's novel. Frankenstein novel. Or the modern Prometheus. No one ever I think somebody should take the modern Prometheus title. So the novel was released in 1818. This is set in 1850. So how close of an adaptation this movie is to Mary Shelley's original novel is going to be just a big point of discussion for, I think, most of the discussion about this movie, because it is, if you, going back to watch the 1931 Frankenstein movie, where we get, the he's alive, Boris Karloff as the monster. Going back to watch that, it's unbelievable. It's crazy how much it felt just like a college film class putting something together. Because it's not set. So it was made in 1931, but it's also set in 1931 for no real reason, other than like. When did the stock market crash? 1929. Okay, so yeah. 1931, everyone's kind of hurting. So I feel like they set this Frankenstein, the original Universal Monster adaptation, in 1931 just out of like, no one has the budget to do anything. The costumes very much feel like, bring your clothes from home, because we don't got anything for anybody else. Yes, it has, like, cool sets, but, and it's very, the like, what is it, the German Impressionist style, where it's, like, it's very intense forced perspective, right? And it's very, very cool, but, like, again, everyone's costumes just are, like, stuff from home. You could tell they're kind of just slapping this together, and it has fuck all to do with the novel at all, right? It's also very telling that, like, they made Victor Frankenstein, who is supposed to be the scientist, who is supposed to be the main protagonist of the Frankenstein story, his name is just Henry in the 1931 version for no goddamn reason. They have a Victor in the movie, and it's not like Victor is like, oh, they like needed to change it to Henry to like make it more palatable. Because, like, Victor was too much of a Victorian name or something that in the 30s, right? So it's not like Victor was an unknown name in the 30s. They had just another character who's just like won over. He's one of the other main characters whose name is Victor. Why not the guy who's actually the protagonist? Very strange decisions. And I don't know why they made them. Again, I think I want to go for green, sparkly, and purple. My colors for this Halloween have just been like green and purple. So I think I finally want to do like a mix of them. Oh. Finally, this stupid book thing can open a little bit more. Just needed to break it a little bit. These are not great palettes, these elf ones. They're also quite old. Like, you can definitely tell, like, in this yellow. Like, it's supposed to be shiny, but it just has, like, you could even tell. Oh my god, look. It's supposed to be shiny. You can tell around the rim where I haven't taken product. So many, like, cheap eyeshadows is if they want it to be kind of sparkly, they'll just, like, spray sparkles on the very top. And then in the minute you actually, like, use them for the first time, there's nothing. The discussion about Frankenstein for like almost a century now, right? It's almost been 100 years since 1931. And the major discussion is just how much of a departure from the actual source material, right? The Mary Shelley novel almost single-handedly created the genre of Gothic horror, with Lord Byron, reigned in at their summer home in Geneva, and how that and another person wrote The Vampire, which is basically a precursor to Dracula, and like the creation of the romance genre. Not romances in like love, but romances in like the romance genre, which is like more of like, an appreciation of nature and like mysticism. Not mysticism, mystery, right? An appreciation for the beauty of life, while also just being like a solemn thinking boy. You need to be plagued by so many thoughts about how beautiful this world is around you. That's the romance movement. And like that broodiness almost like blent itself into the Gothic horror genre so easily. Like Victor Frankenstein as a character is a very ironic protagonist. He's like so plagued by his need to like do science and be God that he doesn't really notice all of the beauty around him, right? Especially when it comes to like, there's so much in the novel about like how beautiful Geneva is. And like, the beauty of his it's not great, but it's his like his cousin or his like adopted sister that's his love interest for the book. And it was kind of normal though, especially if you were like a wealthy family, to like pick a young urchin off of the street and go, "You'll be a good wife for my barren son one day." Not barren like he can't have children. Barren like the status symbol. Baron Frankenstein. Yeah, that was not great. But what about our society is, it's not like we don't know we're kind of fucked up. Why won't you go back down? And like, you're not appreciating the beauty of this child that we groomed to be grooming in a very literal sense, groomed to be your wife for her entire life. And she's just so beautiful, so very beautiful, and so very pure. And you're not appreciating her because you need to go play God and stop going and playing God. That's kind of the moral of Frankenstein the novel, is don't be God. You're not going to be God. And to that I say, well, God just can't do it like me. Okay? So when we come to Guillermo's adaptation of Frankenstein, first of all, he follows it so much closer than the most famous adaptations, right? Like, I think the Hammer, there's the Universal adaptations, the Hammer adaptations, There was one in 1994 with Robert De Niro as the monster and Helen Bonham Carter as the love interest. I'm quite all right. I am toasty. It's quite nice here for a Thursday. Oh, nice. You know it's Wednesday, though, right? Oh, dear. I totally got my days jumbled, but tomorrow will be nice, too. Good. That's nice. That's nice. Guillermo makes his adaptation very much about not so much this, like, don't spit in the face of God and being just this, like, troubled guy. It's very much about fathers, sons, and generational and cyclical abuse, right? And oh my God. God, what, just like, So Victor Frankenstein's father abuses him, tries to, actually kind of flipping that on his head, right? Instead of grooming this poor urchin daughter to marry their barren son, like in the novel, Victor's father very much wants to groom him to be his successor, right? His progenitor of the Frankenstein name, because the father in this is like a world-renowned surgeon. And so he also very literally tries to groom Victor into being that surgeon, right? There was never an option for Victor to not be following in his father's footsteps. And oh my God, eventually he does, like, make the choice to be this scientist, this surgeon, this person who, and his goal is to beat death, right? Taking the role of surgeon and doctor to its extreme because, of course, you know, his mother dies. He reclaims his power from his father of, no, I'm not being a surgeon anymore because that's what you want me to do. I'm doing it to become this god, to beat death. I will overcome it. Because you, being the best surgeon in the world, still couldn't save my mother while she dies in childbirth, you know. That child that she dies in childbirth of is Victor's younger brother, and that he kind of becomes the character whomst is pure. I think that this character's name is William, the younger brother of Victor, and he's like the vessel of purity in this adaptation. William is, like, very quickly discarded by Victor, right? He loves him, so he says, but he as he goes along and he goes to college and, you know, carries on this idea of wanting to, you know, being such a great scientist that he can be God and defeat death. He does kind of throw William by the wayside. William kind of just becomes, because, oh, he's a great financier, he kind of just becomes the way that he can, like, get all of his tools to, you know, do his science and attack and dethrone God in many ways. It's William's fiance, who is the Elizabeth character, who is not this vessel of purity in the film. And then another character that they come across is Christoph Waltz's character, who's another character not from the novel, I don't really believe, or, you know. I read Frankenstein when I was, what is that, like 8th, 9th grade? Is it required reading? And the Christoph Waltz character is the only character that I have more of a why exactly was he here exactly? Because he is the financier, the actual backing, right? William does all of the errand running. He's the errand boy, but the Christoph Waltz character is the one who's actually funding everything, and he wants to fund this kid who's, like, trying to beat death because he's dying, of course. But there's, like, I don't know. And then, like, right as the storm is happening and they're about to reanimate the corpse, he throws, like, a roadblock of, no, I have syphilis, but you need to put me into this new body that we're making. We've made the perfect body by, like sampling all of these other pieces from other corpses. Also, a big anti-war movie. In places, but I'll get to that when I talk about the Elizabeth character more. I don't really know what to make of Christoph Waltz and the changes that they made for it. Because he puts this like roadblock right as we're about to reanimate the corpse. And no, your syphilis-riddled brain, like, it's spoiled. It's not good to put into my perfect man. Or, like, what do you want? What else would you put in there? Your heart? It's already, your syphilis is already spread to your heart. But, like, okay, he's like, no, I'm going to stop you. You have to put me in there or, and then immediately he dies. So it's like, oh, so that roadblock wasn't actually, like, a roadblock? And I don't know, I guess Christoph Waltz just being, the charismatic actor that he is, right? He's just a charismatic person. I don't know if that character was, like, slimy enough. That's the character that perplexes me the most. And like, what was Guillermo trying to say with him? I don't know if he went hard enough. One of his scenes is like, oh, he's into photography, and of course it's like nude photography, but it's like he's still kind of like ashamed and like covers her up as like the nude model is like leaving. And so he's dying of syphilis. Syphilis is the disease that you got from prostitutes back then. Also spread to prostitutes, right? Let's those sex workers did have lives that were completely ruined by their customers, because they gave them that at that point really untreatable disease. Is syphilis also still untreatable? Or is that another one where we can just fix with penicillin nowadays, right? So many diseases throughout history, like completely wiped human populations out, just wiped them out. And then nowadays it's like, it's a pill you take for 7 days. If that, right? Maybe even 5. I think syphilis is kind of bad still, right? It's not gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is a little more. Anyway. But so like, I don't know. He wasn't slimy enough. He didn't put up like enough of a roadblock. He didn't throw Victor's arrogance back in his face enough, I guess. But then one big part of the film is how it does keep the adaptation of the 2 major parts of the Frankenstein novel. It's the question of who exactly here is monstrous, right? It's the very 9th grade meme of like, but who truly is the monster of Frankenstein? The monster or Frankenstein, right? Oh, bless you. What is it? It's like being smart, or I can't remember. Knowledge is the understanding that the monster's name isn't Frankenstein, but wisdom is knowing that actually the monster is Frankenstein. But because we've had so much pain, trouble, and frustration with the my old ass eyeshadow primer, I'm going to do something huge. I'm going to do something huge for me. I'm going to throw out a piece of makeup that maybe has like a little bit more makeup that I could maybe scrounge around for, but listen, we're done. We're not using it anymore. And I'm going to use the last bit of this bad concealer that I have. I don't use it as an actual concealer because it doesn't work as a concealer, but maybe it'll work as an eyeshadow primer. Oh, but so they keep the 2 parts. The 2 parts of the film is one, the film's events told by the perspective of Victor Frankenstein, and the second part is the events of the film told from the perspective of the creature. And of course, Guillermo also makes the decision to like consolidate this a little bit, because in the novel, it's Victor tells his entire story up to being taken on board the North Pole ship and then you go back to the creature's perspective when the creature was created, and then you hear all of the events again from the creature's perspective. Guillermo very, very smartly consolidates this to once the creature is born, basically, that's when the creature comes in and starts to tell his story, his half of the story. So it's not backtracking like the whole way, right? You do a little bit of backtracking of like, yeah, I was born. And then the creature picks up essentially from when he gets created, right? And that I think is one of the most ingenious parts of it, of Guillermo saying, no, we don't need to hear everything like twice. Let's only hear it like 1.5 times. You know what I mean? That I think was an ingenious decision. And the creature comes in, and everybody raves about Jacob Elordi, right? And I'm not tapped in, all right? I don't watch children's television. I don't know what the fuck Euphoria is. I know there's a lot of glitter involved, but I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But, like, this performance is great. Also, I think, I don't know what I thought his voice sounded like, but it definitely wasn't like this. So, I don't think from the interviews that I have seen that have included him, he sounded the way he sounds in this film. So I think, like, the voice work is also really fucking cool. The physicality. And what the heck is going on here? Uh-oh. I've picked out another eyeshadow primer that I want to go buy. It's just kind of just a matter of time for me to save up to actually, afford it. It's a pretty affordable one, but like, ooh, actually I should look. It might be from like a British brand. So then, oh God, with all of the fucking tariffs and all that stupid shit. Why do I have to think about that? That seems more like a pet project for Donald Trump. I feel like he should be responsible for that. You know what I mean? I feel like he's the only one who should worry about what the fuck the tariffs are doing, not me. It wasn't my choice. If it was up to me, I feel like China should be able to do trade with me personally. If we truly live in the democracy that we say we do, I feel like, I should be in charge of that. Open trade to the country of Ava. Seriously. I'll get you a microphone and megaphone to say this preach. It's not my fault he's an idiot. Honestly, I feel like it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't even matter to Donald Trump if we just put him in a corner and said, yes, of course you're president. Of course we're making the tariffs happen so much, sir. And he's just in his little corner in his, and we're just, out here running the country like a normal fucking person. What would be the difference? I don't think it would make any difference to him. Honestly and truly, he would get the exact same amount of satisfaction. But so Jacob Elordi's physicality for the creature is great. A very good, solid performance. I love the way that they had his eye, because he's assembled of multiple people's parts, so the reflections in his eyes was different for each of them. That's such a cool look, and the way that it would be just that one eye, it's very almost like Telltale Heart, right? Of that flash that comes at you, the way the light hits him as he's coming out of the shadows. Especially when it comes to confront Victor. And the best part about Jacob Elordi's performance is that I don't even think they really put a lot of prosthetics on him. You know what I mean? I think his face is just kind of shaped like that. And then we get to, I think, the most, I've heard some smatterings that maybe there's a little bit of controversy about the Mia Goth character, the Elizabeth character. Okay. As we've established, she's not the pure character, right? She is not just the essence of purity the way that she is in the novel. She is there to make a statement, right? In many ways, like I think Guillermo referred to her once as she's right. She's like a thoroughly modern woman in a very not modern time. I think she even like she speaks with like everyone has like some kind of like British accent going on. Christoph Waltz kind of has this thing that he always does, which sounds foreign enough to like us Americans. So everybody kind of has this very posh British accent. Right, and they put on the airs of like this time period. We're in a time period piece, and then Mia Goth, while yes, she has like kind of a British accent, she definitely has like a more modern cadence to her. So it's almost like as soon as you do encounter her, you kind of stumble over her words, right? She speaks at a different tempo than the rest of the characters, and it's like you just joined a new dance partner and they're not at all in time with the music, so you're like, oh okay, she's a thoroughly modern woman. She's very like anti-war, very like you men and your violence that you always do. Can't we just not do violence, please? Again with the cyclical abuse of like it seems to be that, like, fathers abuse their sons and mothers love and care for their sons. But mothers tend to die. I also don't really get the point of the Elizabeth character. I don't know exactly what Guillermo was trying to say there. Maybe I need to watch it some more, really ruminate on more things in the film, but like when it comes to Guillermo's canon of work, most of his films are about women and they center women. And maybe I guess I'm just a little too spoiled. Because like this, I guess, just is a very male-centric Guillermo movie. You know what I mean? So it's just like Elizabeth isn't there to like be the central thesis or the central heart of the film, very much, which is nice because it's like it's kind of playing with your expectations of like the woman being the symbol of purity. She's supposed to be the heart of the film. No, she's still just a auxiliary character, So maybe that is the feminist statement that Guillermo is making here is that, sometimes women are just like there. They don't have to say anything. They don't have to do anything extraordinary. They just are. Of course, like in the history of Frankenstein adaptations, beginning with the 1931, the sequel that they immediately put out was Bride of Frankenstein. In the novel itself, the creature comes up to Victor, and like the creature like learning how to be a person, the family in the woods. That's always amazing. That's what Frankenstein is. It's also playing with the expectations of like people's visual presentation and like who is immediately clocked as a monster and who is immediately disregarded as a monster and who is actually the monstrous person. Because in many senses, Victor Frankenstein in the novel is very monstrous, right? Very much an outcast in his society, right? He's kind of a shut-in, kind of an odd dude. But to the monster, he is almost... right? He's a rich guy. He's a fucking baron, right? Oh, that's very the Hulk. But so women. When women die. Oh, okay, so the Bride of Frankenstein. The creature approaches Victor on the wedding day of Elizabeth and William. She's dressed in her wedding gown, and the gown obviously with the like she has ribbons all up her arms, and that is obviously like invoking the ruched arms of the Bride of Frankenstein from, I think the Bride of Frankenstein is like 32, right? Because they pump those movies out, girl. Ooh, girl, they pump them out real quick. That's the thing about the Universal monster movies is that that was like, at the time it was so commercialized, and like, I'll remind you that like film was only like what 3 years old at the time. So like it just immediately pumping all of these movies out so quickly. We've kind of always been this way, and like that's more of a discussion of like, where is the line drawn between like high art and commercial success? Can it be both? Obviously it can. I'm not pretentious enough to say that like slop can't also be good too. A good blockbuster movie can slap just as hard as, you know, your pensive Oscar baity Holocaust film can be. Art is art no matter where it comes from. And that's just the thing about The Bride, is that I feel like every single adaptation since ever since The Bride of Frankenstein came out, I feel like there is so much of like an aversion to ever portraying, right, almost an embarrassment of ever portraying the bride, because that's a novel invention, right? That's not specifically from the films themselves, even though like quite a lot of the Frankenstein iconography, like the lightning itself being the thing that animates the corpse, that was a movie invention. How Victor reanimates the corpse in the novel is kind of done like off screen. If off screen like is a thing for novels, he's kind of just like, oh yes, and I did so much science. Oh my god, I did so much science, and I was so tuckered out, and it wasn't working, and I fell asleep, and then all of a sudden the creature was there, and he was reborn. Like the bolts in the neck kind of thing. Even I think like the green skin tone. Of course, the 1931 is in black and white, but like the posters all painted the creature in green. I think in the novel he's described more bluish. I think Guillermo made him a little bit more blue, a little bit just like very, very pale in this version. So, you know, that is also another way that this adaptation is just much more accurate than many other adaptations. Again, having not seen the 94 version, that one's even called Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, right? So I think that one was like very much trying to be the nerdy, pretentious kid who was like, this isn't novel accurate. Not like I don't like being that person also. All right, how did I do this shape on this other one? I think it was more like this. Yeah, that's the thing. When you kind of a happy accident do a shape on one side, replicating it on the other side is the most difficult part of it. My goodness. So in the novel, Victor begins to rebuild the companion for the creature, the bride, so to say. She never got a name. Neither did the creature in the novel. All of that was Universal marketing. But so he starts to build her, and then he kind of has his anxiety of like, well, what if they're capable of like reproducing, and then there'd just be more dead. There will be a whole race of dead people out there. I can't have that happen. Oh no. And then he destroys the bride in the midst of her creation, right? Doesn't even get so far as to like do the lightning or anything. Just like a couple of pieces assembled together, essentially. That's the extent of the bride in the novel, right? And you hear like the creature like scream out in the distance because he could peek in through the windows or something. And so like ever since, the furthest along the bride has ever gotten in any adaptations is the Bride of Frankenstein, right? Actually being awakened and have like, you know, talking at all, even just a little bit. And it feels like ever since, no Frankenstein adaptation has ever wanted to even like touch the bride, right? It's been like an embarrassment. And with Elizabeth like having her sleeves in her wedding dress that she ends up dying in, right? Because fathers abuse their sons and mothers love their sons only to die too early. And that's the fault of women, is that they die. We die too much. Fucking L for women, just dying all the fucking time. It just seems like so much of a setup of like, okay, we have this freshly dead body here. I need you to make me a companion right? It seems to be so much setting up, like, let's revive Mia Goth. And of course, Mia Goth would be such an amazing bride of Frankenstein, right? Because of, like, the intrigue of, like, both the monster and William and Victor, like, all loving this woman. Like, what is... it's just so rife, and especially because, like, you kind of wasted your Mia Goth here, you know what I mean? She is an actress who has built an entire career off of screaming. You know what I mean? You don't think she doesn't want to be... You think she doesn't want to be the bride of Frankenstein? You think she doesn't want to be just like an odd corpse person? Just like screaming about, oh my God! There was definitely something like brewing in that Elizabeth. Like I knew it. I could feel it, right? There was a scream in there. There was a Mia Goth scream in there that needed to come out. You know what I mean? Like how she's like this very opinionated, thoroughly modern woman in a very non-modern place. And how, like, of course, like, reanimating her just for the purpose of the creature, or just for the purpose of you, Victor, because you just, like, didn't want her to die. And you have this whole thing against beating death or whatever, and how, like, maybe all of this reanimation isn't going to go the way that you had planned. Like, once she does get reanimated, that, like, that's her cue to be like, how dare you do this? What the fuck are you thinking? I never liked you. I never wanted to be around you. I definitely don't want to be back here dead. That and the Christoph Waltz character. The Christoph Waltz character just needed to be built out a little bit more, but, like, just a major missed opportunity. And the thing about Guillermo is that he doesn't have a lot of missed opportunities, especially when it comes to his female characters. And so it seems just like, but why, Guillermo? Why? Because the thing about adaptations is, again, every adaptation that you do is built on top of the shoulders of other adaptations. That's why I'm bringing, like, the 1931 movies up so much. And I also need to get into the Hammer versions, because, well, and that's just, like, I was looking, there were so many Universal movies of Frankenstein. There were so many Hammer movies of Frankenstein. Boris Karloff plays Frankenstein monster for like 20 whole years. People couldn't get enough of Frankenstein. Couldn't get enough. Like, I was just like on a Wikipedia list of, like, television and film that include a Frankenstein, the creature, and there were so many of those. So many. Oh my God, can I tell you that? So many immediate of, like, European sexploitation films. It's like Europeans see, like, one film and they're like, I can make porn of that. No. It's okay. It'll be just like this weird Italian sexploitation movie about so many people fucking a dead body. Don't worry. I'm European and I will immediately put all of my effort into making this. Don't worry about that. Don't worry. I'll get to it. I swear it must be something in the cigarettes, right? Because, like, we don't smoke as much as Europeans do. It must make you just like a horny person. Europeans, they saw Frankenstein and they were like, I could fuck that. I sure could. So I would have loved to see Elizabeth come back as a bride, just to, like, throw it in the face of Victor just a little bit more. I think Victor also got off, like, a little bit too easy. I think he needed to be tortured more. Oh, and my last point. I think this is also Guillermo's most violent film, right? Guillermo he's not a stranger to horror. He's not a stranger to blood or even a little bit of gore. I don't like gore. I love blood. I think that's where it's at. I don't like gore. There's a little bit of gore in this, but not offensively so. So, like, if I, a person who doesn't like gore, am all right with it, then that, you know, but it might just be because I love Guillermo so much, so I grade him on a scale. It could be that. Especially because it feels like there definitely is a purpose, right? Of, like, you know, there's this point that they get in the film of, like, there's this line that the creature says, the farm family, sheep get attacked by a pack of wolves. And the thing that he says is like, and I came upon this realization that like the wolves attacking the sheep didn't hate the sheep. They were just trying to eat, right? The hunters that then shoot the wolves aren't shooting the wolves because they hate the wolves. They're just like trying to protect their livestock, right? Nobody hates anybody at any point in this process, but the outcome is still violence. Violence just seems to be the thing that we as people create. And it also is this macro commentary on the microcosm of like the cyclical and generational nature of abuse. So like fathers abuse sons, but then also the world is just very violent. And I guess in some ways that is true, right? Natural disasters happen. There's no point of them. They just are kind of violent, you know? I don't do lashes when I wear glasses. So that would help maybe things a little bit, but like I could tightline my eyes, I guess. That's what I could do. I think the mother characters are there to try to like say, I guess in this very, very violent world that we live in, right? Violence on the macro sense, right? Natural disasters, wolves. That's the violence that we should all be united against. So there's no reason to do the micro violence, right? There's no reason to be the abusive father. And that's true, right? Every time there is a natural disaster, I do kind of am overwhelmed with this feeling of that it's horrible. It's horrible that it happens and that people like lose their houses and lose their lives to this. But like this should be the only thing that we have to worry about, right? Natural disasters. There should be no such thing as war. That is such a useless expenditure of violence, right? It's like we should look at it as that like we have a violence quota. You know what I mean? So, and like the world that we are living in has enough violence as it is. I should live in a world where I'm able to give to my fellow neighbor so much more who like survives a tornado because I'm not having to worry about how like, you know, my taxes always fund genocides somewhere around the world. Always fund some violent imperialist action of the United States. We do have violence at home. We don't need any more of it. Being Guillermo's most violent movie, right? Just with the amount of like impacts that happen, right? Everything's like very crunchy, which like does make a satisfying soundscape, but you know, it's being done for violence happening to beings all over this world, you know? Despite the fact that Guillermo is no stranger to horror. Violence, right? Like that's never really been Guillermo throughout his movies all that much. I think it's definitely a point that he's making by like showing the violence very plainly. That's the point that he's trying to make with like violence being so cyclical. I think it's a very successful movie. I think the most successful movies are movies that make you talk, right? Even if it's not like you wouldn't have made this or this exact choice, or why exactly does Guillermo make that choice, right? I think it's this is what I love about film so much, is it's the stuff that makes you talk. And I think there's just a lot to discuss about with Frankenstein. 2025, there's a lot of stuff packed in there. And this is, again, just glossing over like how absolutely gorgeous this film is, right? That was just like the throwaway point at the beginning. But like, especially when it comes to the characters, I would have loved to see a more built out Christoph Waltz character. He needed something else. He needed to be more of a roadblock. He needed to be more of like a precursor to the doom. What Victor does, either in his disregarding for like other people, right? Someone who like purchases sex workers and like spreads syphilis. That would be like a way that like, you know, someone who does disregard other people the way that that Victor does in pursuit of his knowledge. He could have been more of like a roadblock, and also like, don't go down this, this way of being. And Elizabeth, not throwing it in his face enough, not really, yes, on its surface being that thoroughly modern woman, I think she could have used some screaming. She could have used some screaming for sure. And I find it so funny how so many adaptations just never want to touch this bride part of the story. I don't know what it is about that, because I think the bride is so cool, right? I'll need to actually watch the Bride of Frankenstein and see how, like, maybe it's just because that was like really hokey or something. But of course, the cyclical way of violence. We don't need to abuse our kids. I think that's a very easy thing to do. Stop trying to make your children you. It will be a film that I'll have to chew on for like a long time. And that is, again, like one of the symbols of the most successful films is how it makes you think, how it makes you talk about it. So I tell you what, there's so much of an eye look is just about the sparkle. You know what I mean? We'll do one swipe of vintage rosewood across the lip. I need to dress as the bride one Halloween, because the bride is just an amazing costume. Oh my God. Can I talk about the sets though? The manor house of the Frankenstein manor house. Ugh, gorgeous. That one piece of millwork that William split his fucking head open. Amazing. That's the thing about Victorians, is that they didn't know how to fuck all that much. I think they just put all of that energy into like their woodworking skills. Maybe we do need to bring back puritanical structures. We need more carpenters, and I guess that's the puritanical anti-sex cults just make better woodwork happen. That's fun, I think. Now, as usual, we do close out our makeup portion of the broadcast by putting on a scent. This is the Birkenhair sample pack, but Velvet Woods, the romance movement, and the want to appreciate nature. There's definitely plenty of nature in Frankenstein 2025. Also, of course. Is that maybe it's like a Merlot scent? Maybe is it rose? Oh, something a little spicy too. Oh yes, okay. There's something almost clovey. There's a spiciness to it. Oh, here it is. Cedar leaf, cassia bark, coconut milk, blonde woods, tonka bean, and sandalwood. Maybe it's the cedar leaf that has that like bright spice at the beginning. That's quite nice, actually. That's actually very winter woodsy, very Christmas time woods, like those adaptations where Santa is like time period piece of Santa actually being like a vagrant up in some woods. So like that's the imagery. Right, he's not actually in the North Pole. He's just in a cabin up north, and I have just lots. I anticipate having lots of evolving feelings about this Frankenstein movie. I need to watch The Bride, and I need to also watch I need to watch like all of the Universal movies. I think that would be just like cool, and the '94 version, because the '94 version reportedly. But is itself trying to be the adaptation, right? So we'll see about that.